What is up, guys? It's your boy Nick Torius, back in with another video. I said I'm back in with another video. And today I'm gonna be talking about always trust when you feel bad vibes, right? So if you're feeling any like weird vibes, it's always for a reason, right? So smash the like button, comment below what you think, subscribe if you're new. Let's get into it. Woo! All right. So when it comes to energy and vibes and feeling and all this, oh, hold on. When it comes to energy and vibes, you always want to, go with your gut, right? Like when people say, oh, I got a gut feeling about this, I got a gut feeling about this person or whatever, it's because they feel the energy, right? It's not even just like a gut feeling. It's so funny because now that I think about it, now that I realize, it's like people say, oh, I have a gut feeling, right? It's because they're not in their heads. And it's funny because I spent like all my life just being in my head thinking, right? Just thinking about a bunch of stuff, like thinking this, thinking that, thinking everything, right? Just like thinking about a bunch of stuff. And basically it made me realize once I was able to leave my head, right? I never really understood what it meant to leave my head, right? Like, oh, get out. Like a friend of mine that used to be a friend of mine used to say, get out of your head, dude, right? And I was like, what? Right? And I would always read, because especially when I had my heart broke, right? I had gone through a bad heartbreak. And, I would always be thinking about this specific person. And, I would look up how to stop thinking about her and shit, right? And then they're like, oh, get out of your head. And like, they're like, stop overthinking and all that. And it's like, what does that even mean, right? Because it's so funny, like there's a certain connotation of overthink, right? Because when you think of overthinking, you mean like you imagine they're like, oh, okay, overthink, like, oh, I'm thinking too much, right? So let me think less. But sometimes you gotta just like not think at all, right? Overthink, to be overthinking means that you're just thinking in general. It's like, just don't even think about it. And it's so weird because it's like when you live your whole entire life just thinking all the fucking time, and you're just like, right? Like it's funny because this weekend I went out to go do the interviews I do with people, right? And this was the first time I ever was asked, oh, can I interview you guys? And I was like, all right, sure. Like this girl asked to interview me and my homeboy. So, we're on the interview, we're being interviewed, and I was kind of uncomfortable, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie. Like, cause I feel like it's because I'm used to asking people questions, right? I'm not used to the one having the attention on me, right? Like, oh, what do you think? And all this stuff, woo, right? That's so weird. But yeah, like, it made me feel kind of uncomfortable to be interviewed, right? So since I was uncomfortable, I mean, it made me realize that I like asking questions. But why do I like asking questions, right? Because I realized at some point in my life that it was pretty recently, right? Like after I tattoo smoke perp, I realized that I've always been unsure of myself in the sense that like what that really meant was that I would always think about things too much, right? Like even this, I'm not really thinking about like saying like the things I'm saying, I'm just talking. But I would always be thinking too much, like, oh, I gotta say this, or what should I say? Should I, I still do it. I'm not gonna lie, because I do still stay in my head, because it's work to like be in your fucking body all the time. Like it takes a lot of work. But I still, be overthinking a lot. I still think like, oh, should I do this? What about this? What if this happens? Yada yada yada, woo, and all this stuff, right? And even though I'd be like, I forgot what else. Basically, once you realize that you can get out of your head, like you can take your energy and just like focus it out of your head and put it like somewhere else in your body, like your hands, your feet, your torso, your genitals, your legs, or whatever, right? Like where your attention goes, energy flows, right? So basically what happens is you put your energy in a certain place, right? Like you put an energy in a certain area, and when your energy is there, that's where you are, right? That's where you are. So when you leave your head, you leave the world of analysis and you leave the world of what if, like what if, like what is, right? Like what, who, what, where, when, why, how, right? Like you basically leave that world and you go to a different world, a world of is, right? Of answers. Like there's people, like there's this one technique that helps build your confidence, right? And helps you stop overthinking. And it's just like labeling things. I remember my homeboy told me, he's like, to get me to stop thinking about the girl, he's like, oh, look at the tree. Say, oh, look, that's a tree. That's a lens. That's a grass. That's a street. That's a sign. That's a, you know, just like label things in your environment. And that gets your mind off of stuff. And it's so crazy because like this weekend, these past 2 days, I've been thinking a lot about like focusing my attention and training my attention, right? Like really training my attention. And that's what I've been doing. And I've been really like grasping like, okay, how can I fix my attention to like not think of these like crazy intrusive thoughts that I have, and you know, think about things like, and stop judging people, think of people more better, you know? So basically you just like leave your mind and you get into your stomach, right? And when you're in your stomach, when you understand what's going on in your belly, in your gut, then you can feel other people's energies, and you're like, okay, I feel your energy. But when you're in your head, you're just like analysis, analytics, right? Labels and all this stuff. You're just thinking too much, and you're just like, okay, what should I do here? Like what? You can't really tell about a person, right? Like since I've been in my head all my life, I was never able to really understand people, right? Like I never had empathy. I never had like, I mean, I probably was empathetic, but I never was really able to be me, you know? And, you know, if you believe in chakras, basically what happens is that like you leave one chakra, which is your mind. Like I'm always in the head, which is like, I'm more in like the third eye, right? I'm always looking at my third eye. And it's funny because people always think of like the third eye as like this mystical thing. It's like the third eye. But it's literally just like, you know, the little projector in your head, right? Your third eye is like a little projector, and it just like shows you different stuff. It's like watching a trippy movie, you know? Like it's funny because I've always had it, because what happens is that like it's like life is like you have this little movie, right, in your head. Like you could just like watch different movies. Like if you think about something, it's basically your imagination, right? Like it's basically just your imagination. And my bad, this really annoying girl is calling this like blowing up my phone, and it's so annoying because I don't want, like, I got a little scared because I don't want the video to cut off, because then I gotta remember what I was talking about. But basically, you know, your third eye is a little projector in your head, and it just like shows you different things, you know? It's just like, oh, look at this movie, look at this movie. Like I remember when I was younger, because basically I would basically just spend a lot of time in the little projector in my head. And I would, you know, since I would spend so much time there, when you're in your stomach and you're just like not in your head, and you're not really like thinking about other stuff, you're not like thinking like, oh, this and that, all these things you gotta think about. When you're not like thinking about everything, you're basically, you know, like in your body, like in your actual body, in your belly. And when you're in your belly, you can feel what's going on, right? And you can feel when people have like weird vibes, right? Like I remember for me, I don't think I could hear people's thoughts, but when I'm around certain people, I do notice that I do get certain thoughts, right? Like the way that the way that people breathe basically influences my thoughts, right? And basically I like, if I'm around a certain person, then I'll hear like weird stuff, right? Like I'll hear like, it's like I can kind of tell. I remember one time I was tattooing this girl, right? And she was telling me about how like she couldn't read this guy's mind, but she like, there was this guy that was around her, and she felt like, oh, this guy, he has like some weird energy, like he was like a real evil, like child molesting predator, rapist. He had a real real raping vibes, right? Like real rapist vibes, right? Like ever since she told me that, it's kind of funny because there's certain people that I'll be around, right? It's so funny. That's so weird, right? I'm just thinking about the times when like I would be like in stores and shit. I'll be around certain people, and then I'll just be like, oh shit, this guy has horrible vibes, right? Like this guy has horrible energy, and I don't like his energy. So I was like, keep myself a distance, right? I'll just keep my distance from them. That's mostly how I deal with all my situations, basically. So it's like if I feel bad vibes, if I feel like any type of weird vibes, like any weirdness, that's enough for me to just like not trust you ever, right? Like I'll literally never trust you. And the thing is like before I never understood like people can have bad thoughts, but since I was always in my head, what happens with the mind is that the mind is just something that just wants to be ahead, right? The mind just wants to survive. The mind just your ego, right? Your mind and your ego just wants to be like, how can I get something from this, right? Like how can this benefit me? Like all my life I've always been thinking about other people as like tools, right? Like I've always thought like in order for me, like the only reason I'll have someone around me is because they benefit me, right? And even now I still get like this way. It's always here, bro. It's always fucking here. That one was like, I was like, can I make this late? Damn, made me forget what I was talking about. You know, oh yeah, your mind basically just wants you to, you know, like what can I get from the situation? Like, how can I be the best? How can I be better than anyone else? And it's like when you're in your stomach or your heart, when you like go from here down to here, you're just like, oh, how can I help people? How can I put focus and energy on other people, right? And that's basically when your intuition just like kicks in and you're just like, oh, your intuition tells you do this, do that. Sometimes you can listen to it, sometimes you don't have to. But just always remember, the less you listen to your intuition, the more quieter it's gonna be, right? And the more quiet, like, because the thing is, we have different voices in our heads, right? Like I always hear people talking about, oh, I'm hearing voices. I'm always hearing voices, right? I kind of get it. Right? I don't feel like they're voices. I feel like it's like, all right, so for me, I hear like my intuition and it tells me do this, do that. And it's like I can either do it or I cannot, right? And then I have thoughts, right? And it's funny because thoughts and intuition sound totally the same, right? Because there's thoughts, because your intuition is basically like your higher self, right? It's like your highest self that tells you, all right, that you ask them, like, hey, higher self, can I get this? And they're like, okay, I'll give it to you, but you got to do what I say. And sometimes, like, you know, like I'll ask my higher self, like, hey, can I get like abs? And it's like, all right, you can get abs. Just run like 3 miles every day, right? And it's like, that's a lot. You know what I mean? I don't really want to. So it's like I can either choose to listen to it or I can't, right? Or I don't have to. So, you know, they both sound the same though. They're like at the same volume. But the thing is, like, the more you listen to your intuition, then your intuition is gonna be like, okay, he's listening. So let me keep telling him what to do, and it gets louder and louder. And the thing is like sometimes you don't want to do that because you're just like, because then you go from your intuition to your mind. You're like, what if? But what if? Right? And it's like, I don't know, bro. It's so stressful. Life is so stressful. But that being said, always trust your gut. Always go with your first judgment. If you feel weird vibes from someone, and like if someone's like acting weird, like I saw this post. It said, how it is when someone is normal. You know, like when someone is normal, you know how they act, you know how they are, you know how they like move when someone is like a regular person. But when someone's acting odd, when someone's acting not right, you know, okay, they're not acting normal. Like that's not how normal people act, right? For me, I know I act weird, I act crazy as hell, right? I understand it and I'm accepting it because I don't like touching people. So, and people like to be around me and touching me and shit. And so for me, I'll not act normal because I don't want to touch no weird niggas, or I don't want to touch nobody that I don't fucking know, right? But you know when people are acting weird, so when someone wants something from you, they're gonna have some weird energy. So just always trust your gut. With that being said, like the video, comment below what you think, subscribe if you're new, and if you have any questions, just DM me on Instagram at Torius at 6 feet interviews, and I'll make a video talking about your question. With that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Patreon and to donate to my charity, A Hand on the Mountain. Link in the description, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.